Hello, this is Eric Meyer with South Texas Sport Court. Thanks for tuning in to check out this video showing the installation of a wall-mounted Garrett Sports LXP 4200 glass backboard with a side-fold backstop. This video is for entertainment purposes only and is not meant to be instructional. We accept no liability for damages or injury by anyone who duplicates techniques in this video. We recommend working with an experienced installer for the installation of this type of equipment. Okay, let's get started. So the first step on this project, really on any installation of wall-mounted basketball goals, is typically going to be the installation of the buckboards. The buckboards are the 2x8 or 2x lumber that is often you see attached to the wall, and then the backboard and all of the components attached to that lumber. So the backboard in this video is a Garrett Sports system. Garrett does provide the buckboards. However, the buckboards they provide are 6 feet long. And just for an extra measure of caution, on this project, I wanted to use slightly longer buckboards just to guarantee that we're hitting more studs with the anchoring hardware. So this just distributes the load a little better over more studs by getting a longer buckboard. Whether or not a longer buckboard is necessary on a different project, it really depends on the wall framing and just the experience of the installer to determine whether or not they think that's necessary. So the first step is we attach the hardware to the buckboards. A lot of this hardware goes through the back of the buckboards, so it's not going to be accessible. You're not going to be able to get that hardware in once the buckboards are up. So we attach that on the ground, usually on some sawhorses first. The next step is to get those buckboards on the wall. So the way that I do it, and there's multiple ways to do this, is I've already determined the center of this wall, exactly where the center of the goal is going to be. And I put a little mark on the floor, and I set my laser level on that mark to shoot a laser up to the ceiling. And then I just simply use the scissor lift to go up the wall, and I use a little speed square to mark exactly where that center line is on the wall. So you could do this with a plumb bob. In fact, I've done it with a plumb bob years ago before these lasers were so available and affordable. Today, of course, we do everything like this with a laser. So I've marked out a couple places on the wall, and then I'm just connecting those with a yardstick. You could certainly use a carpenter's level to do this as well. I've just found that carpenter's levels, if you drop them or bang them, they're just not going to be quite as accurate. So anyway, I prefer to do it with the laser level and then mark it out with a yardstick like I'm showing you in this video. So we do that all the way up. We're going to attach one buckboard at about 10 feet high, the next one about 13 feet high, and the one above that roughly 16 feet high. So we're going almost all the way to the ceiling. This project is a home gym just west of San Antonio. It's about a 1,500 square foot gym. It's really, really a nice gym. Quite a nice thing to have in a home. It's altogether the space is about 2,000 square feet, but the basketball court is about 1,500 square feet. The other remaining 500 square feet is used for workout equipment. I think there's a foosball table, exercise bike, some rubber flooring for some weightlifting and functional training. So to try to make things a little bit easier on this project, I cut these 2x4s that I've taped to the wall. I've just taped them to the wall with painter's tape. They only need to be there for a few minutes just to support the weight of the 2x8 while we get it leveled and get it positioned. So I've marked a center line on the 2x8, and all I need to do is line that center line up with the line that I marked on the wall using the laser. Of course, I want to make sure this buckboard is level. On this project, we ran into a little bit of a hiccup, I guess. The concrete supporting those 2x4s was not level. One side was maybe 3/8 of an inch higher than the other side. So as we put the level on it, we realized this, this isn't the right height, or this isn't level. And of course, if we raise one side up to make it level, then our buckboard's too high. So for us, because we're installing sport court gym flooring, the sport court floor with the rubber underlayment has a thickness of about 9/16 to about 5/8 of an inch. So for this particular backboard, we want the center of this buckboard to be 9 feet, 9.5 inches off the concrete. It's a little less than that off the finished floor. I think it's 9 feet 8 7/8 off the finished floor. So to try to get our buckboard level, we manipulate our 2x4, our temporary leg there, to get that side of the buckboard a little bit lower. Really what we did on this is we split the difference. We lowered one side of the buckboard and raised the other side to get it level, all while keeping it on the center line. It's really important, especially on a side fold unit like we're installing on this job. It's really important for the operation of the side fold mechanism that everything be perfect. So we took a lot of extra time on this one, measuring, leveling, remeasuring, re-leveling, really making sure that this first buckboard was absolutely perfect, exactly where it needed to be from a height standpoint, from a level standpoint, and of course positioned on the wall from a left-right standpoint, exactly in the right place. So we anchored this buckboard into the studs with a GRK type of lag bolt. We did pre-drill the holes. We were able to see exactly where the studs were. The homeowner had put this plywood on the walls in the gym, and I'd never seen this done before, but he used a stapler, and I love it because there's not all these screw holes everywhere. You can barely see the staple holes. They're very small. So absolutely love the fact that he put it on with staples. I thought that was brilliant. Of course, we're not anchoring just to the plywood. We are anchoring through the plywood into the studs. It's 3/4 inch plywood on the bottom part of the wall, and I think it's either 1/2 inch or 5/8 plywood on the top of the wall. But on a basketball goal like this, I would never anchor just into the plywood. I would always want to anchor into the studs to make sure I have a firm hold. So the studs were about 16 inches on center, so we were able to anchor into 6 or 7 studs as we went across that buckboard. It gives us a really nice load distribution with the weight of the backboard. These glass backboards on this job, so the homeowner actually bought this backboard online. He bought it from an online supplier. Of course, we sell these as well, but he bought the unit online and we just handled the installation for him. But these glass backboards weigh almost 200 pounds, and then you add the rim and the framework and everything that supports it, and you get a little bit more weight. So now I've got these shorter 2x4s that I cut, and these create the exact perfect spacing between these buckboards. So those metal brackets that are attached to the buckboards, those are supposed to be exactly 36 inches apart on center. Again, the bottom one from the concrete is 9 foot 9.5. The next one's 3 feet higher, so 12 feet 9.5 inches. And the reason I made these 2x4s is actually on the last project that we did, I did a lot of this hardware myself before my helper came along, and it just helped to have these little 2x4s that I could tape to the wall that could support the 2x8s while I was getting everything leveled and anchored. So on this job, I've got my friend Herschel helping me out. He helps me out from time to time on installing sport court flooring, wall pads, basketball goals, volleyball systems. I've got another helper that helps from time to time as well. So again, we're anchoring these with a GRK type of fastener. It's like a lag screw, except it's much skinnier. It's maybe about 1/4 inch in diameter, whereas a typical lab screw is going to be a little larger than that. And the threads, they actually stick out a little bit more, so it gets a little bit more grip on the wood, and it's got a real nice Torx head driver, so you can drive it in real easy with an impact driver. These provide a tremendous amount of holding power, way more than we really need for this installation. However, if for anybody that wants to install one of these, like I said at the beginning of the video, I recommend you just hire someone that's done this before many times and what they're doing. They're well versed in these systems. And of course, if you do decide to do it on your own, which I don't advise, but if you do, then you want to make sure you consult with the manufacturer. Again, this is a Garrett Sports wall-mounted system. If you put in some other type of system, just consult with the manufacturer, get their instructions on how to do that and what to do, get their advice. Garrett is probably the heaviest duty system that you're going to find out there. Other manufacturers might be Gorilla Goals and I think Home Team or First Team. I forget the name of the company, but there are several companies that make that make like a residential grade basketball goal. This goal that we're putting up today is the same backboard you're going to find in an NBA arena. You'll find it in a university setting. This is like I said, a full-blown half-inch glass backboard. But the only thing I don't like about this particular model, earlier I'd said this was an LXP 4200. That's not true. This is an aluminum framed goal. I typically go with a steel frame. It's same size, same thickness, pretty much same weight. But again, the homeowner bought this on a website. They sold him an aluminum frame backboard. Had I been suggesting the backboard, I would have definitely suggested a steel frame. I just think they're stronger, more heavy duty, and that's typically what you're going to see in a commercial setting is going to be a steel frame. From a price difference, the aluminum frame and the steel frame are neck and neck. They might be $5 apart in price, if that. But I think you just get added strength with the steel. So we stacked the buckboards right on top of each other to mark where the holes were going to go. That way we can take it back down onto the scissor lift to pre-drill all the holes. Just speeds things up just a little bit to do that, rather than trying to hold it up on the wall while we're pre-drilling into the buckboard itself. So we get all that pre-drilling done, and then we put it up, and we can put the screws in a little bit faster. I don't recommend trying to install one of these without a scissor lift. I imagine it could be done with scaffolding. In fact, I think I have a job coming up later this year that is a basement setting. We may not be able to get a scissor lift in there, so we will have to go with scaffolding. But again, the backboard itself is about 200 pounds to lift that up, and you'll see later in the video how we use the scissor lift to hoist that backboard into position, and how we use the scissor lift to hold it in position while we get it everything anchored. But if you have a setting where you absolutely cannot get in a scissor lift, then a smaller lift that's meant to lift air conditioners and those sorts of things could possibly be used for the backboard. I wouldn't use a single man lift to try to lift the backboard. I think that would just be a little precarious. But some scaffolding or a very tall ladder and a lift that's meant for air conditioners would certainly work on the backboard as well. But again, I just want to stress, and I'll probably repeat this again: hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Don't try to do this yourself. Quite frankly, a lot of times the instructions that come with these units, they don't provide a lot of the details. They show some basic assembly, but they assume that whoever's putting these up has got some experience and is going to be able to work through the limited instructions and know how it all goes together. So the brackets on this backboard, you'll notice on the right-hand side, they stick out from the wall a little bit further than they do on the left. That's because, again, this is a side fold unit. So those are actually hinges, those black flanges that we see mounted to those buckboards. It's very similar to if the backboard was going to fold upward. We would use a lot of that same hardware. It would just be rotated 90 degrees. Again, it functions as a hinge. It's a different bracket, slightly different bracket that we use if it's a stationary backboard where it's not going to fold up or fold sideways, and that bracket is a little different. Not much, very similar. So once we get the brackets up, there's actually a lot of the assembly takes place on the ground. The backstop that comes with this system, Garrett makes, they're really cool the way they make these. So they make a backstop that allows you to put the backboard as close as 2 feet from the wall, or as far out as 12 feet, or even maybe slightly over 12 feet away from the wall. And they have about, I think, 4 or 5 different models, and each one has a range. Like there's a range, a model that allows the backboard to go 2 to 4 feet from the wall, and that's what we used on this project, or 3 to 4 feet from the wall. I'm sorry, and that's what we used on this one. This backboard is exactly 4 feet from the wall. And then they have another system if you want to go out a little bit further or a little bit further, and it's a telescoping system so that you can set it wherever you need to set it. So the first step here is going to be to anchor the chains on those upper brackets. We do have some turnbuckles that come from Garrett. I like to open these up, almost fully extend them in terms of length, and then once I get them up there, then as I level the backboard, I'll tighten them up and close them in. Now the quick connects that come with this system, they almost never fit on the turnbuckles, almost never. So we always use a bastard file. We have to just file down the turnbuckles or file down the quick connects just a little bit, either make the opening on the quick connect the ring on the quick connect a little narrower, or the turnbuckle a little narrower so the quick connect will go, or we've got to actually file down the quick connect. I think it's the galvanizing on the turnbuckles that adds extra thickness, and it just 9 times out of 10 it ain't gonna fit. And we have to file them down. However, we found on this one, they've changed some of the engineering on this. These brackets that are attached to this upper backboard, they're double thickness. They usually just be a single thickness bracket, about an 1/8 inch thick on each side. And what they've done is they've taken 2 of their 1/8 inch thick metal brackets and they've put them back to back and welded them together. So now we've got a bracket up there that's about a 1/4 inch thick. Well, the quick connects that connect to those open up about 3/16 of an inch. So we've got to file that down with a bastard file. We have an angle grinder. However, we don't have a vise or any way to safely hold that quick connect. And a larger size quick connect that would have a larger opening would be too large in diameter to work with the turnbuckles or to work with those brackets. So we're kind of stuck having to file those down. Every once in a while, if I'm able to get those brackets and get them back into the shop, if I have a unit delivered, and then it's my project and I've had the unit delivered, I've bought it, then when I'm out there at the time of delivery, I'll open up the box, inventory everything, make sure it's all there, and then I might take those quick connects and turnbuckles back to the shop and hit them with a grinder. That way they're ready to go, speed us up a little bit on the job site. But you can see I'm grinding away. I think it was about 10 minutes of grinding with a bastard file, filing with a bastard file, to get that quick connect to open just enough to get it to connect to those brackets. This is one of those things, I don't know if this is just Garrett or other manufacturers, but just be prepared when you get these parts and you get all these parts to put these things together. They may not always fit together, little things like this, because these are things that come from a different manufacturer. They're not being made by the company that's making the rest of the components. And so just be prepared. We always carry extra hardware and extra parts with us just in case something comes up missing. And sometimes things do come up missing, and we've got to call and get something FedExed or overnighted to get the job done. So we grind again. I grinded on this one quick connect for probably 10 minutes with the handheld bastard file, and then Herschel was down on the ground. He was filing down another one for me to have it ready for the other side. Just one of those things that kind of adds to the time of the install. If you're going to try to do this yourself, just really this backboard could probably go up in about 3 hours, but you're going to run into little headaches like that, or like trying to get that first buckboard level, where you're going to spend a little bit more time than anticipated. I think altogether it was maybe about 5 hours to put up this system, and then he had another goal, another little adjustable goal, more of a residential grade, not a commercial grade, that was put on the end wall of the gym. I didn't put that in the video. I'm just putting this Garrett goal in the video. So we start at the top on hanging stuff from the buckboards and work our way down. We start with the chains at the top and then come down from there. Once we install other components of the backstop, we can no longer get up to that upper buckboard, because those components would be in the way. The scissor lift would have to be moved either to one side of the goal or the other. So this is a little handheld blower that I have, just cleaning up some of the sawdust that was left from drilling the holes. Getting all that off there so we can sweep it up. I just don't like leaving that stuff up there and leaving a mess. So we start at the top with those chains, get those attached, and then we'll work our way down. We'll attach the upper pipes of the backstop, then the lower pipes of the backstop after that. A lot of up and down on the scissor lift. When I say up and down, I mean me climbing in and up on the scissor lift and back down from the scissor lift. So we try to measure these out and assemble a lot of that on the ground so that we can just slide it into the bracket, put a bolt in it, and it's done. We do have to fine tune the adjustment. Like I said, that's a telescoping unit. So that pipe that I'm attaching right now, it's actually 2 pipes. A slightly smaller one that fits in the larger one, and they slide in and out so that you can get the backboard exactly where you want it to be. And they lock down with an Allen bolt. Once you slide it out and get it where you think you want it, then you lock it down with an Allen bolt real tight so it can't slip and slide or go anywhere while you're putting the backboard on it. Again, these are going to be adjusted a little bit later as we level out the backboard. You should always assume, and it's almost always going to be the case, that the wall's not going to be perfectly flat. It's not going to be perfectly plumb. There's going to be little goofs in the carpentry. I mean, I've even seen commercial projects where it's steel framing that's welded together, where the welder just didn't get the girts or the beams or something exactly level and exactly lined up. So the benefit of this telescoping system is you measure where you think you want it, you get it up there, but then you've got the ability once it's up to fine tune and sort of slide it out or slide it in and adjust exactly where that backboard is. So we get both of these up there. There is some excess chain. I generally don't cut that off right at the beginning in case I decide I want to make another change. So that chain is left just dangling there, that excess chain. And this is maybe just me. The way I put the quick connects on there, I always put them on there so that when you turn the nut on the quick connect to close it, you're turning it so it goes downhill, so that it would have to work against gravity to loosen. So it's just me. I don't think that those things could ever loosen anyway, but it's just an extra little thing I do as a safety precaution. And even if it did loosen under tension, those things are made to hold a lot more weight than this backboard, so they're not going to open up or bend or anything like that. I'm not concerned about that. We just, we do a little bit of overkill on these backboards. We want to make sure everything is right, and that backboard weighs a couple 100 pounds, but really the system is probably designed to hold 4 to 5 times that amount of weight. You'd have to consult with the manufacturer to see exactly what it is made to hold, but of course it's designed to carry that load and then some. People in a gym, sometimes they hang on the rim or do silly things like that, add a lot more weight. So these systems are made to handle that load and be just fine. So all of these brackets that attach to those black pipes, those are made to swivel. See, I can fold it sideways. Those are made to swivel. And so we don't want to over tighten things where they wouldn't swivel easily, but at the same time we don't want it loose where it's going to rattle. It's just that perfect amount of torque on the nuts so that they move, but they're not loose and wobbly or clanking around or anything. And there is I think it's a nylon bushing or some sort of plastic. I'm not sure exactly what it's made out of, but it's some sort of synthetic bushing that goes in there between the bolt and the brackets to give it so it's not metal on metal when those things are swiveling. And of course, that's on the Garrett system. Other systems may not have those bushings. We've put up scores of these Garrett systems, as well as a lot of outdoor goals. So pretty well versed in all the different options that are available and everything. So I just dropped a nut or bolt or something on the floor. That's the real benefit of having a helper on this. You could do most of this. One person could do most of it. In fact, I have put in these goals by myself. It certainly helps to have a helper on the ground to hand things to you. Inevitably, you're going to climb up on that scissor lift and realize you forgot something. Having somebody on the ground to pick things up or give things to you really saves a lot of time and energy. Truthfully, though, the guy on the ground spends a lot of time just waiting to pick something up if you drop it. It's just the way it works. But it does help to have 2 people, especially when you're putting up the backboard. One person to work on the lower bolts while someone else works on the upper bolts. We'll see that here in a minute. So these lower arms, I'm not supporting them with anything. They're just kind of dangling there. They really don't weigh that much. On a larger system where these arms are sticking out from the wall 8 or 9 feet, I do use a rope or a strap, and I actually make a little sling so that the bottom arms are not just dangling out there in space. But that's if I've got a longer pipe, heavier. But being only that we're putting this backboard about 4 feet from the wall, I'm not worried about the weight of those hanging there for a little while. So I move the scissor lift out. I want to get it a little over, since my backboard is 4 feet from the wall, I want to get my scissor lift about 4.5 feet out from the wall, maybe about 6 inches beyond, where that backboard's going to go. So the Herschel's handed me, those are the buckboards that actually came from Garrett. They're real nice. They've got like a urethane or something on them. They're routed on the edges, so they're real nice buckboards, pre-drilled and ready to go for you. So we run a couple of those across the top of the scissor lift, and then tie them down to the scissor lift so that they can't go anywhere. And we use those to hold the weight of the backboard as we lift the backboard. So I just tie it down with some rope. You know, again, the backboard's about 200 pounds, so we're using rope that'll hold 600 or 700 pounds. I've just got a quick connect knot I learned many years ago that I tie on here. I've never had it fail. 30 plus years of using this knot, or about 30 years of using this knot. I've never had it fail, so it's what I use. I don't know what it's called, but everybody that ties knots has their preference, and this one is mine. It works easily. So I've already tied a loop in these ropes. So we use these ropes all the time for this exact purpose. So I've already got a loop in one end, and then we just tie it down with that quick disconnect lock on the other side. So I've got a rolling tool cart. I put a furniture pad on it just to protect the top of the pad and protect the bottom of the backboard. We set that rolling tool cart up to set the backboard on while we get it fastened to the side of the lift. We use a ratchet strap as a sling because we're able to adjust the height of that ratchet strap, each strap individually. So we just wrap that strap around that board a couple times so it's not going to slide or go anywhere that we don't want it to go, and get it adjusted so it's hanging down about 3.5-4 feet. We do that on both of those boards, and then we'll put the backboard in those slings to lift it up. It's been a real good system for us. We don't install these backboards day in and day out. In fact, we typically only install these on projects where we're also putting in the flooring and other components in the gym. Just an added service we offer to our clients. If I was doing this day in and day out, we'd probably have a slightly different system, for getting this done. But this works really well for us. It's reasonably fast and certainly an inexpensive way to do it. So now moving the backboard is definitely a two-man operation, again due to the weight, about 200 pounds. So we set it up there on the tool chest. And we've done this on sawhorses as well. We've also done it on just some chairs. The tool chest is kind of just the right height, though, for us, because when it's on the tool chest, it's going to be just below those buckboards that we've got running across the top of the lift. It's just almost perfect. So we get the slings wrapped around. We've already got them basically formed into a loop, so it's just a matter of sliding it underneath that backboard on each side. This way we allow the scissor lift to do the real hard work of lifting this thing up. I have done outdoor backboards where we're on an outdoor court and it's a glass backboard like this, and we're able to, if it's an adjustable system, a height adjustable system, a lot of times we don't need a scissor lift at all. If it's a pole mounted on like a playground or a backyard sport court, if it's a fixed height glass backboard, then we've done that with scaffolding. The framework that supports those outdoors, though, is significantly different because it's a post mount, not a wall mount. I wouldn't, I've seen the post mount indoors. It's not something that I really recommend. If you either attach to the wall or the ceiling, I think is a better option. So I have had scissor lifts not want to do this, where it's a little bit between me and the goal. It's a little bit too much weight, so we always want to get a mid-size scissor lift. So there's a flange on the back of these backboards. It's a slot, and it's a little 1-inch carriage bolt that slides through that slot and into the backstop. So just for clarification, the black framework that is attaching the backboard to the wall, that's the backstop. So backstops come in many different sizes and varieties. In a commercial gym, you're typically going to see a backstop that's anchored to the ceiling, so the goal is suspended from the ceiling. Again, this backstop's a side fold. They also come as stationary or upfold. We do a lot of the upfold units with an electric motor, so with a key switch, so the coach or staff can just turn a key and the motor will fold. The goal will fold upward with that motor. A lot of the hardware and components are the same. It's just things are rotated differently. And of course, there's some other brackets involved if you're hooking a cable up to the backboard to raise it up. So the upper connections I generally make. It's a really tight fit on your fingers. You've got about 1.5 inches between the metal flange on the back of the backboard and the back of the glass. The interesting thing about the ones on the top is you've got the carriage bolt has to go through that flange on the back of the backboard. It's got to go through a plate that's connected to those chains, and then it's got to go to the swivel, and then it's got to go through the swivel bracket that's attached to the backstop. So it's you're trying to line up 3 holes for each carriage bolt. Now, the benefit of using a ratchet strap here is that I can grab the ratchet strap and I can, use the ratcheting mechanism to fine tune the height of this backboard. I can also, at this point, I could raise that backstop up by hand just a little bit to get the bolt holes lined up. Whereas if you're trying to go up or down with a lift and you're only trying to raise it 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch, some scissor lifts have very sensitive controls. This one has good controls. It's got a joystick control. There's others that have a joystick for driving, but they use push button for up and down. The ones with the push button for up and down, when you push the button, it moves quite a bit. They're going to move maybe 6 or 7 inches every single time they move. So these units that have the joystick, you can fine tune that movement a little bit better. I think they're the better unit to use when doing this type of installation. So I don't really tighten these all the way down at this point. I just get the bolts in there and snug them up by hand just a little bit. On the buckboards, these pipes that are coming off are exactly 63 inches apart on center. And so we want to replicate that on the back of the backboard. We want those pipes 63 inches on center, and we also want them centered on the backboard. The flange on the back of the backboard has a slot that the carriage bolt goes in, and that slot might be about 5 inches long. So there is room to have that backboard off center within the backstop. But of course, we like everything centered and exactly perfect, as perfect as it can be. Again, we're dealing with some imperfections in the construction, the walls, and the framing of the house or the building, and we can't help that. We just have to adjust, for those things. So at this point, I'm able to take the ratchet straps off and get those buckboards out of my way. It is kind of a tight fit up on the scissor lift, trying to bend over to get underneath those 2x8s. So we've got the weight now is hanging on the backstop. It's hanging on the chains. There is no weight load on the lower pipes of this backstop. Those pipes strictly provide stability for the backboard. There's no weight load on those at all. So all of the weight load is really on those chains and on those upper sets of arms. So once we can get those buckboards moved out of the way, we can start adjusting the level of the backboard. We can also get, again, those pipes, those backstops exactly centered on the board. So I usually what I do is I measure the length of the backboard. This is a 6-foot board, but I always just measure it, and I don't do any, and there's no guesswork in what we do. Measure it. I know that from the center of that backboard, each one of those pipes at the backstop should be 31.5 inches out from center. Every once in a while, I just measure from the edge. If I got a 6-foot backboard and I got a 63 inches apart on those pipes, and I know I've got about 4.5 inches from the edge of the backboard to where those pipes would be. So lots of different ways to do that. Everybody has their own methodology. I'm sure that other people that install these things, they've got other little tricks of the trade. So again, this is where I'm trying to get this centered. So I've got to grab a block of wood and just a small little nailing hammer. Try to slide these plates and everything over into the correct position so I can tighten everything down. A lot of friction involved at this point because we've got the weight of the backboard hanging there. But remember, I've got that plate that the chain's connected to, and that is sandwiched in between the hinge bracket on the backstop and the backboard. So I'm not only trying to get the hinge bracket on the backstop exactly where it needs to be, but I'm also trying to get that plate that's sandwiched in between there, get it exactly where it's supposed to be. So there's a couple things there that I'm trying to adjust there on the top. They're never just going to be in the right place. And of course, you can't really loosen the bolts too much. You're still going to have friction no matter what you do. So we just have to tap it, lightly with a light small hammer. That's not going to hurt anything. This is real heavy gauge steel. It's about a 3/16 to a 1/4 inch thick. steel plates there. So tapping it with a hammer and a 2x4 isn't gonna cause any harm whatsoever. So once I'm able to get those in the exact position that I want, I am an absolute perfectionist. I'm looking for a 32nd to a 16th of an inch in terms of where I want things to be. I just can't sleep at night if it's not to that level of perfection. So we tap it back and forth, get it exactly where we need it to be, and then of course we'll have to duplicate that on the other side. The lower arms are a lot easier because there's really no weight load on the lower arms. So that's just a case of loosening up the bolts a little bit, the carriage bolts, and sliding it into position and tightening it back down. So that's real easy. The nuts on those carriage bolts, it's the type of nut that's got a locking flange built in, so we don't use any locking hardware or any other washers. It's just the nut with the built-in locking flange. Simplifies things a little bit. One hiccup that we sometimes run into on some of these systems is the holes through these systems are sometimes a little bit too close to the weld, and we'll be right up against a weld with one of those nuts, and that. So sometimes we've got to put the bolt through the other direction if we're running on a nut. So this flange should be 12 foot 9.5 inches to the center of the flange or the center of that pipe off the floor, provided the concrete's level. Again, we centered that bottom buckboard on the wall. The center of that buckboard's 9 foot 9.5. Assuming that the concrete is completely level, then that flange, the bottom flange should be 9 foot 9.5. And the top flange should be 12 foot 9.5. So just using that as a guide, I can then adjust the turnbuckle, tightening up the turnbuckle to get that flange exactly where I want it, and that should put the rim exactly where I want it. Throughout this process, though, we're going to measure and remeasure. We're going to check with the carpenter's level dozens of times. Every time you make an adjustment on one thing, something else is also going to now be out of level or going to need to be adjusted. So there's a lot of back and forth and fine tuning to get this exactly right. So I really don't need to measure the other side. Again, the concrete we know is not level on this job. Now my carpenter level, I like to check it in one direction, and then I like to flip the level around typically and check it the other way as well. And I might do this 2 or 3 times throughout the process. We know even when you go buy a carpenter's level in the store, when I'm at the hardware store, I take that level and I stick it on the shelf, not expecting the shelf to be level, but just to see where that bubble is within that little liquid vial on the level. And then I take it and turn it around and see if it shows up in the exact same position, when the level's turned around. If it does, then I know it's a level that I can rely on that way. So again, we're going to adjust this a little bit and then check the level. Going to check the height over here. I'm not really expecting it to be the same in terms of height because I know that the concrete is not level. So we know that we're going to have a little difference from one side to the other in terms of the distance of the backboard off the concrete. And that's just a limitation we have. I mean, we don't pour the concrete for sure. That's that's the general contractor, in this case the home builder. So checking the other side, just want to see where we are. Ideally, we'd be at 12 foot 9.5 inches to the bottom, right in the back of the middle of the backboard. So then once that's all done up there, then we can go and attach those bottom brackets, just tighten them up, get them exactly in the position they need to be in, and get them all cinched down. It's generally easier. Herschel's working on those from the backside. We use an 8-foot A-frame ladder for a lot of that stuff on the back of the backboard. Use a scissor lift for the higher stuff and stuff on the top or the front of the backboard. And this is where it really helps to have a second person that can work things from the back while whoever's on the scissor lift is working things from the front. I can't tell you how many times I've left a carpenter's level up on top of a backboard and then accidentally knocked it off and sent it crashing to the floor. Happens more times than I would like. Now again, this is an aluminum system, so the magnets on the carpenter's level are not going to stick to that frame. When we use a steel frame backboard, of course, we've got some safety there with the magnet on the carpenter's level sticking to that frame a little bit. So once he gets it all tightened down, we're gonna check to see the backboard is plumb. We do a lot of these systems in steel building gyms where the framework is exposed, where it's not all covered with plywood like it is on this one. And it's always nice when the folks that are erecting that steel framing, or the welders or whoever that's putting that in there in the walls of the building. It's always nice when they make sure that everything is straight and level and looks good, especially when it stays exposed, throughout the life of the building. That's often the case when there's just a steel frame building. Now this is of course wood framing, 2x6 framing with spray foam insulation in the walls. So, like I said earlier, it's a really, really nice gym. I mean, it's an awesome home gym, got air conditioning and everything. So we realized on this system that because it's a side fold system, the carriage bolts that go through the backboard and into the backstop, there's a couple sizes that come with these systems. I think one's 1 1/4 and the other's 1 inch, or maybe it's 1 1/2 and 1/4. But they have to be the shorter ones so that when the unit folds, the pipes don't hit the carriage bolt. And so we realized we had longer ones in there. I'm not sure if Garrett shipped longer ones or if we just picked up some longer ones. Again, we keep a bunch of extra hardware just in case. So we had to swap out the longer carriage bolt for the shorter one. It's always fun to have to go and redo something when you've already spent a good amount of time getting it just right, and then to realize you got to take that bolt out and replace it. A little frustrating there, but it's something that's just got to be adjusted. Can't leave it that way. I realized watching this video that Herschel was wearing a shirt from Floor and Decor. They're a flooring store here in San Antonio where we're located. No, he doesn't work for them. They didn't sponsor the video or anything like that. Just a case of he had been to a networking mixer they had, and they gave him a shirt, and he just started wearing it out to job sites. So again, with the weight of the backboard on there, it's hard to take the bolts out and replace things. So this is again where having a scissor lift just really makes the job easier and safer. We're able to take a little bit of weight off the chain with the scissor lift, take that bolt out of there and get it replaced without any concerns about the board dropping or anything, because we've got it supported by the lift. I don't recommend you climb up on the rails of the scissor lift. That's just sometimes I got long arms and I'm tall, but there was no way I could get to those bolts without doing that unless I had a taller ladder. So getting the weight off the board helps with making some of the adjustments. Sometimes we have to do this quite a bit, raising the board back up with the lift when we're putting in a system with a height adjuster. This system is available with a height adjuster mechanism that would lower the rim down to 8 feet, really anywhere between 10 and 8 feet. We've put in a lot of those, especially in elementary schools. We put in those on almost every project. I really can't think of, this is probably one of the rare ones where we don't have a height adjuster, but the other basketball goal that's on the end of the gym, it does have it is an adjustable goal. I think it goes down to like 7 or 7.5 feet. So this one didn't necessarily need to have that adjustment capability. So now we want to measure. So we're measuring out I'm measuring the center of the goal to see exactly how far it is from the wall. And of course I want both sides to be the same distance from the wall. So we can check that, and then we're going to check for plumb. If one side is a little bit further out or not where I want it to be, then we can, again, those are telescoping pipes, so we can slide them in and out to get it where we need to be. So I check the plumb on the face of the backboard, and then if the top of the backboard is the correct distance from the wall, then I will adjust the bottom pipes of the backstop either in or out to get the backboard plumb. On the other hand, if the backboard is a little bit too far from the wall, then I may adjust the top pipes in or out to get the backboard, the top of it, where I need it to be, and then come back and make further adjustments on the bottom. And as we're going through this process, we're also going to check the level of the backboard from right to left, because as we slide out one side or in the other side, the chain that's holding it, I mean, if you think about the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, if we slide that pipe in or out, then if we slide it in, the backboard's going to move downward. If we slide it out, the backboard's going to move upward. So adjusting the length of one means we have to adjust the length of the other. So again, it's got an Allen bolt there that allows us to cinch it down where we can make minor changes, sliding it in and out. we generally try to set the length of those, like I said, on the ground ahead of time, but we're always going to have to fine tune it. Always have to fine tune it. It's never going to be exactly right once we get it up in the air. So double checking the measurement on there, seeing if we're the same. Again, my preference is I want it within about a 32nd to a 16th of an inch. I think that's as close as we're going to get, a big heavy piece of equipment like this. So once we're satisfied that is, that's right, then I'm going to recheck the level, because it is going to have to be adjusted if we've moved those pipes on the backstop. There's going to have to be an adjustment. Sometimes these turnbuckles you can just turn them by hand. Most often than not, you're going to need to put a wrench or screwdriver or something in them to put a little bit of leverage on them to turn them, because they do have some weight behind them. I have on occasion put a drop of oil on the threads so they turn a little bit easier. You have to be really careful with this though, because we had just one project where it had 6 goals, and 2 of the goals were out from the wall about 10 and a half, 11 feet, and we put a couple drops of oil on those turnbuckles, and about a year later, my client called and said, "Hey, my backboard looks like it's a little bit out of level," and I went back out there, and boy, it was. That turnbuckle had loosened a little bit, and so just one of them. Now the other 5 were just fine, so I adjusted it, and then about 3 months later, I went out to check it again, and it had adjusted itself because of that little 1 drop of oil on those threads. So I had to clean them off and put some Loctite on them so they would stay put. Now they've been fine, ever since. So we've determined we've got to slide that bottom rail of that backstop a little bit, so Herschel can loosen it for me while I make the adjustment, watch the level, and then he'll cinch it back down. So those Allen bolts that go on there, those are strictly temporary. Those are used just for this purpose right here, just for getting it where you want it. We are going to drill holes through those pipes and stick a bolt through them. Once we get everything level, everything exactly where it's supposed to be, then we're going to go ahead and drill a hole, stick a bolt through it, and lock it permanently in place. Most of the time, if you get one of the bottom ones, if you've moved it in or out and locked it, and then you go loosen the Allen bolt on the other side, it's automatically the backboard will level itself once you allowed that telescoping pipes to slide in or out, and then you tighten them back down. So at this stage, we're nearly done with the install. We've got to get the rim on, we've got to get the pads on the bottom of the board, the net on the rim, and we've got to, there's a locking mechanism. Right now this board would fold left or right very easily, but there's a locking mechanism that'll go on that will keep it in a locked position so it doesn't move around on you when you're playing. So at this point, we've decided it's safe to cut the chains off. You don't want to be standing underneath when these things drop. They wouldn't feel too good. So we can cut those chains by hand most of the time. Not that it's easy, but we can cut them by hand with a small bolt cutters. So a lot of this process, it's just one person tightening, loosening, leveling, adjusting, and the other person doesn't really have much to do. When we get to this stage of the game, I'll generally have whoever's helping me. Herschel, in this case, he'll climb up there and he'll get those holes drilled to put those bolts through the backstop while I work on the pads and the net and the mechanism, the side fold mechanism that locks it in position. So I can work on all that myself. These units, the rims come with carriage bolts, and the nice thing about it is you can put the top 2 carriage bolts in, just leave them sticking out about a ½ inch, don't tighten them down, just put them through the backboard, go ahead and put the washer and nut on the back, but leave the bolts sticking out in the front about a ½ inch, and then you can just hang that rim on there. It's made to hang like that. Just get it over the head of the carriage bolts, and it's got a little slot that it'll fall down into. And that way you don't have to support it while you're trying to tighten up the hardware. These rims are pretty heavy to hold up there for one person to hold and try to put the hardware in all at once. Now, I've been on some jobs where some goofball put this together the wrong way we've got to try to hold the weight of the rim while we take the hardware out and everything. That's a real difficult situation when people put them together wrong. I've seen a lot of these where people do funky things. They don't know what they're doing. So we can tighten that down a little bit, and then the bottom two. There's 4 bolts that hold this rim on the backboard. The backboard actually has a couple studs sticking out of the front that we'll just put one of those nuts on that has the locking flange built in. Put it on those bottom 2 nuts and tighten it down, and then put the net on it. So this is a standard collegiate rim. Call it a collegiate rim. It's used really. It wouldn't be NBA level of play. It's got the little wire loops on the bottom of it that you can hang the net on. An NBA rim is going to have a slightly different system for attaching the net, and it's also going to have more articulation and tighter springs. This one has a couple springs, a couple vertical springs, and one horizontal spring. It comes preset with the right amount of tension. I think these things have about on the rim. The rim is meant to break or it's meant to flex. I think on this rim at about 115 or 120 pounds of energy. Now I say energy, not just static load. I had a client recently that was hanging from the rim and it wasn't flexing. He goes, Eric, this rim isn't flexing. It's supposed to flex. And you know, the rim is not supposed to flex. It's supposed to flex when something hits it fast. It's not supposed to flex if you just want to go up there and do chin-ups on it, though it might. There are rims that are made to do that. Those are flex rims. This is not a flex rim. This is a breakaway rim. It's meant to flex under dynamic energy load, not static energy load. So again, that's when someone, some big heavy guy is going up there to dunk a ball and hitting that rim pretty hard. In that case, it's gonna flex, but not otherwise. So you should get a good rebound off of these rims as well. But they are adjustable. The owner is able to take the bottom plate off the backboard, off the rim, and adjust the spring a little bit to give a little bit more flexibility if they want a softer rebound or they want it to flex a little bit more. So this pipe that runs across diagonally from one corner to the other, the backstop, it is also a telescoping pipe, and it's going to have a locking mechanism on it that we adjust in the field to, make sure that rim. We want to make sure the backboard is centered in the lane. We want to make sure the backboard isn't shifted slightly off to one side or the other when we figure out where the locking mechanism is going to go. There are other backboards that can go on this type of system. I know that Garrett makes an acrylic backboard and a polycarbonate black backboard, which is extremely strong, but glass is usually what we recommend and what most people want. The acrylic and polycarbonate, we don't install a lot of those. They install the same way. We just don't do much of it. We did do one of those boards at the children's shelter where kids are in there playing. We just thought, just from a safety standpoint, if some kid went in there with a big old rock and chunked it at the backboard, we didn't want to have shattered glass all over a gym with, in that type of setting. So we put in an acrylic or a polycarbonate board just for the safety standpoint of that. And then we did the same thing at an outdoor pavilion. It was at a Catholic Charities facility where they had an outdoor covered basketball court, and they had some old acrylic backboards that were very yellow. They had not weathered very well, and so we replaced those. And I think we went with acrylic because it was in a part of town where they were concerned about somebody getting stupid and shooting it, or just being dumb. So we didn't put a glass backboard in that setting, but most other times we're going to put in a glass backboard. So the little rings, the little loops that are on the bottom of the rim, sometimes they're a little bent when we get them. I don't know if they come that way or if they're get bent in shipping. Not a big deal. They are bendable. So we have to put a screwdriver in there and just sort of bend them back down to get the net in. I'm pretty sure we had to do that on this one. And then the pads, these same pads go on a variety of backboards. They go on, I think, with 4 bolts, 1 on the side and 3 underneath. The backboard is already pre-drilled, so it's ready for those bolts. You just have to line everything up and slide it on there and put the bolts in. These pads come in maybe 16, 17, 18 different colors, pretty standard colors, so that you can try to match the color of the pad to your school's colors, or your mascot's colors, or the color of the wall pads if you're going with any wall pads in the gym. This particular owner, he wanted like a navy blue. The wall, the bottom part of the wall it initially looks black, but actually it's a very, very dark blue, almost like a midnight blue, very dark blue, and for the most part it looks black. The plywood is a little bit dusty. They had just finished putting that up, and the builder was just wrapping up construction of the home while we were actually putting up this backboard. They weren't quite moved into the house yet. They were going to move in about a week. The builder was gracious enough to allow us on site, even though we weren't working directly for the builder. So we appreciate that. A lot of general contractors or builders, they don't want anyone on site that isn't strictly, employed by them or hired by them. So, I appreciate the builder letting us in to put this in. So this also has some vertical stabilizers, and I have no idea what they're for. I really don't. I personally don't see the need for these vertical upright supports that are going in the backstop. But I guess the engineers that designed this thing, I'm sure they have an absolute reason. I'm sure there's some reason for them. I am just not sure what it is. I really don't know. It's a mystery to me. But anyway, they come with the system, so of course we put them in because it's designed that way. Now the stationary systems or the systems that fold upward, they've actually got some bars that run across a crisscross and kind of make an X that provide some lateral stability to the backboard, so that when it's in a down playing position, especially if it's the kind that is attached to the wall but it folds upward, so when it's in a down position it's got some lateral stability so it doesn't rock left and right, as it would have the ability to do just a little bit, so that it has some crisscross stabilizers. But these vertical stabilizers on the side fold unit, I really it's just perplexed me as to what they're there for. One of these days I'll find out. I like these side fold units. I think they're a fantastic option for a homeowner or even a facility that just doesn't have the ability to run. I mean, if the building's already built and we're adding a backboard and the wiring isn't in to put in a motor to fold it up, then this is a great option. I think the fold up units are really the way to go. I mean, that's the preferred. If you need the backboard out of the way, then the fold up unit to me is the best option. However, you got to run an electrical cord there, and you've got to put in a switch somewhere that accepts a key. So there's a little bit of electrical to be done. A little bit. It's not just that the unit itself is going to cost more because it has that motor with it, but you're going to have to get your electrician to also run the wiring and get it all hooked up. So this is a great option if you're not going to move the backboard out of the way very often. Then this is a great, inexpensive way to do it. I mean, I think it's a cool design the way that it works. I love the system. We don't install a ton of them because usually we're in a commercial setting and we're going to put in a fold-up unit that has an electric motor to fold it up. So, but these are great for home. In fact, I think the only time we've ever put these in the side fold are residential settings. I don't think we've ever put one of these in commercially. When I have mentioned these as a cost-saving measure on a commercial application, they still want to typically go with the electric fold-up. It's easier to operate. Anybody can do it. It's just got a switch. You flip the switch with a key and raise it up, or flip the switch the other way with a key and lower it back down. So it's easier than moving these over. But these are a great option. Now they did want this to fold out of the way because they were planning to possibly do some volleyball in this gym. We did not put in a volleyball system. I think they're maybe going to attach something to the wall on each side to run a net. Of course, in a later video, we show the installation of wall pads under this goal. So if they were to do that, they'd have to maybe spread those pads out a little bit, put some hooks in the wall there to hook a net on. So they did want a unit that could fold, out of the way as much as possible in the event that they wanted to, play some volleyball. But the court itself is right at 30 by 50, so it's not quite big enough for a full game of volleyball. But it'd be great for pickleball, for badminton. That's played on, those courts are about 40 or 42, 44 feet long. So it would certainly be fine, for badminton and pickleball. Pop tennis is also played, on a smaller court like this. It's very similar to pickleball. A lot of people are putting pickleball courts in their backyards right now. It's one of the fastest growing sports. I've seen some statistics, and it's just growing. I guess as the tennis population ages and their knees and hips and ankles and stuff don't quite work as well as they used to, they're looking for a game that, you know, kind of replicate tennis but be a little bit slowed down, a little bit smaller court, not having to run quite as far to get to a ball. And pickleball is absolutely outstanding for that. It's a game for all ages. So there is those stabilizer bars. There's one closer to the backboard, then there's another one that's going to go closer to the wall. So Herschel's going to get those installed while he's got the lift, you know, up there on that side of the goal, and then he'll move over to the other side of the goal to do the same thing on the other side, as well as drilling those holes to put the bolts in the backstop. Keep that backstop, you know, exactly on this gym. We just designed it so the backboard was 4 feet from the wall. It laid out that way so that we could center the floor within the room, and then we measured, you know, laid that out and laid out where we wanted the free throw line and the 3-point line, and then, you know, set the backboard accordingly. Now, typically on a regulation court, your backboard is going to be 4 feet from your baseline of your court, the foul line into your court, and then, you know, you want another few feet between the edge of the court and the wall. But being that this was a smaller scale, you know, just going 4 feet out was just fine. And we've even done them closer. In fact, I saw one little training gym. It was about a 900 square foot training gym I visited recently. The owner had the backboards direct mounted on the wall, so they were just there for shooting practice. You weren't going to run and lay up or dunk or anything like that because you would have run into the wall. But it was just, you know, had them flush mounted on the wall directly for shooting drills and shooting practice. This backboard is not really made to do that. He had some cheapo boards that he was using. They were fine. They worked fine for what he was doing. This backboard, you'd have to custom make some hardware to do a flush mount directly on the wall, and you would have to put the rim on it before you put the backboard up. So though it seems like looks like we're almost done, it seems like we're at the tail end of having this thing done. It's all the little things, you know, the getting the rim on, getting the net on, getting the pad, all those holes drilled, those vertical stabilizer bars, just getting all the other little bits and pieces put together seems to almost take more time than just getting the backboard up and getting it bolted in. Again, this is we can usually do 2 backboards in a day. If it's a stationary backboard without a height adjuster, we could perhaps do 3 or 4 a day, provided, you know, we didn't run into any hiccups. But mostly we budget about 2 of these a day. Of course, if they have height adjusters, they take a little bit longer. If they've got a fold-up mechanism where we got to mount the motor and set the limit switches, and that takes a little bit longer. But 2 a day is usually pretty good for us. So the backstop comes in black. It's available. It is powder coated. It is available in other colors. I think white, red, yellow, blue, perhaps gray. I think there's 6 or 7 standard colors that Garrett has that you can get those components powder coated to be different colors. However, it does add to the timeline on getting everything. And of course, this client, he didn't buy directly from Garrett like I do. He bought from another supplier, so he got what they offered. They may not have even offered other color options on their website, but black is pretty standard. Most of them that we install are black, unless we're in a school. We've had a couple recently where all of the overhead backstops, one was red and the other was blue because that was matching the school's colors. But black is pretty standard. We do that in almost probably 90% of our jobs. All the hardware is just black. These pads that come with this backboard, they're manufactured to fit either a 5-foot or a 6-foot backboard. There's other pads for other lighter weighter. This is the same type of pad that you would find again on an NBA goal, in an NBA arena. In fact, we've had one job where the client did want NBA quality rims that would be approved for NBA use, and so we put those in. Garrett makes a wide variety. I mean, they make things for playgrounds and residential and all the way up to these university level and MBA level components. Very heavy duty. So the side fold mechanism that attaches to those brackets on the backstop, it's got those same nylon washers or bushings in there, so it's not metal on metal, so things slide and rotate a little bit easier. There's still quite a few things in the gym at this point because they are building the house. It's not showing up in the camera, but I think the dishwasher and bathtub and some other things were in there, and our things were kind of mixed among some of those other things. And then we had an air conditioning contractor in the gym the same day we're trying to do this, who was putting in the registers over the vents and doing some little odds and ends. And then the circuit panel for the house, electrical circuit panels, were in the gym, so we had electricians coming and going and doing stuff in there as well. Of course, we prefer to have a job site to ourselves, but we were the interlopers here. We were in there when the home was still under construction. If you're interested in having these types of things put in your house while it's being built, we can certainly give you a quote, or you can get with your builder and have them contact us, and we can give them the pricing if you want to wrap it all into your mortgage and everything. We could do it that way. I've had several clients that either backyard courts or other things like this. They can just put it into the mortgage, into the construction loan rather, when they're building the house, and then wrap it into the mortgage rather than having to outlay cash for it. So when we drill these holes, we generally step it up. We start with like an 1/8 inch bit, then a 1/4 inch bit, then eventually a 3/8 inch bit. He's got to go through the top of the pipe as well as the bottom of the pipe. So it's really drilling through 2 pieces of steel with each hole. We oil the bit, usually stop occasionally and put some lube on the bit, let it cool off, not wear those out too fast. So what I'm doing is I've already determined the center line of the gym. I've actually put a little hook into the wall, a little screw with a hook on the end of it into the wall, right at that center line on both sides of the gym, and then I can run a string line across there, and that's going to be the exact center of the lane. Well, once we know the exact center of the lane, then we can put the laser on the ground on top of that string and shoot a point straight up and center it, and then adjust the backboard so the backboard is centered, because again, this folds sideways, so that way it's perfectly centered on that laser dot. So rather than trying to eyeball it or do any guesswork, there's absolutely no guesswork. The little locking bracket that goes on the side fold mechanism, we've got to lock that into position based on keeping that backboard perfectly centered with that laser. There's actually a muffler clamp that's part of this, that goes on there, and that muffler clamp is like a stop block. When you're folding this thing in and out, the 2 pipes are telescoping, and the muffler clamp attaches to the smaller pipe that's going inside the bigger pipe, and once the muffler clamp hits the outer pipe, that's where the unit stops. Now that muffler clamp will slide. I have on occasion, if it's a system that I have sold and I am installing, I have on occasion gone to a fastener store and bought 2 or 3 extra muffler clamps and actually stack them up so that we've got a lot of extra holding power. The other thing that you can do there, of course, is once you figure out exactly where you want it, is to go ahead and drill a hole through there and put a bolt in it so that you're not using the muffler clamp. But it is designed the way Garrett has it designed. They ship it with the muffler clamp. You put that on that inner pipe, and that's your stop block for when the 2 pipes are sliding together, and that will stop and lock your backboard in the exact position it's supposed to be in. It really is a pretty cool system. I don't know how it compares to other side fold units. This is the only side fold type of brand I've ever installed. I don't know if other manufacturers even make a side fold. Of course, they all make up folds. Whether it's a residential unit or a commercial unit, they all other brands make up folds. But Garrett actually manufactures some of the parts for other brands. So I've seen other brands out there that have their name on it, but I know for a fact it's actually manufactured by Garrett. So they put their own name on it, and then sometimes they sell components to other people, and other people put their name on it. So you're gonna see a lot of Garrett equipment out there. You just may not know that it's actually manufactured by Garrett, but they are in everywhere in the marketplace in the sports world. For guys like me that are putting these things in, this is the type of system that we would want. The other dominant manufacturer would be Porter. Porter doesn't sell. Porter has a distribution network, so I can't directly buy Porter. They have their own installers, and the times I've priced out Porter equipment, it's been quite a bit higher than the Garrett. we're eliminating some of the middlemen when we're using Garrett. I'm able to buy directly from the manufacturer and then pass that savings on to my clients. And I don't have a lot of overhead because I office at home and I don't have a full-time commission sales force. I'm the only salesman, so I don't have to pay anybody a commission out there selling these things. So we're able to give a price that is generally, I've never seen anybody beat my pricing on equipment. I just put it to you that way. I've never, ever, for years, I've never seen someone get a better price, whether it's online or wherever. You're going to get a better price on this equipment from me than you're going to get anywhere. Whether it's volleyball systems that Garrett makes or these wall mount systems or the ceiling mount systems, or no matter what it is. But the only thing that we don't do in the gym is we don't do scoreboards and we don't do bleachers because you can just find those online. So we don't touch those. But we do wall pads, and of course our main business is the Sport Court brand of gym floors. So a little bit about Sport Court while I'm just putting this thing together. Sport Court is a manufacturing company. It is a registered trademark. A lot of people generically use the name Sport Court. Oh, I got a Sport Court in my backyard, when in reality it's not Sport Court. It's just a concrete slab with a goal. But a Sport Court game court in a backyard is going to have Sport Court product, Sport Court flooring. The gym flooring that we sell, that we'll be putting in on this project, it looks like hardwood. It's got the same urethane finish that hardwood has, but it doesn't have the moisture risks that come with hardwood. It doesn't have dead spots the way that hardwood does. It's not a rotting, decaying product, so it's just going to hold up a lot longer, give you very similar friction, very similar ball bounce. It's going to be a little bit quieter than hardwood, and it's going to absorb energy different. In my opinion, in looking at injury statistics, it's better than hardwood because you have fewer injuries on the Sport Court gym floor than you would have on hardwood. So it looks like we're nearing the end of this installation. Thank God. It is a long process. There's just so many holes to drill, so many bolts, so many things to make sure are level and plumb, and so many adjustments to make. It's never just a real quick process. And anybody that tells you that they can go put this thing up in an hour run, hire somebody else, because if they're putting it up in an hour, I guarantee you they're cutting corners. They may not be putting in the stabilizer bolts or stabilizer arms that Herschel's putting in. They just may be skipping some of that, and you would never know it because you don't know better. But if somebody tells you they can put this in an hour or two, that's not right. Find somebody else to do this for you. That way it's done correctly. We try to share costs on these as much as we can. For instance, on this project, the homeowner rented the scissor lift because he needed it to put up all the plywood, and so that we could eliminate that charge off of our bill, not having to do the scissor lift rental. We just used his lift. He rented it for a week. We told him where to get it and what we needed, and he got it for a week, which gave him time to do what he needed. He was able to let the HVAC contractor use it a little bit for what they needed to do on some of the overhead stuff, and of course we're able to use it for our needs as well. So we look for ways like that to save our clients money. There's no point in everybody coming in and renting a lift and paying delivery fees and everything. If we can all just share one for a week, it works out better. So we're always looking for ways to shave costs for our clients, give our clients a better price while still giving them the value, the products they need, the services they need, but at a more affordable price point. Now for the overhead goals, we work with a different installer. They actually install for us on the ceiling mounted goals. Great company, Texas Sports Equipment. They've done a lot of work for us. They do bleachers and scoreboards, and they do all the gym equipment, indoor, outdoor. And so we've got overhead goals. We have them do the install just because they've installed thousands of those things over the years. They're faster than we are on that, and they've got all the right tools, and they've got their own lifts and stuff. So we have them do the overhead goals. But for the wall mounts, I do all those myself, and I'll bring Herschel or someone else along to help me. On the locking mechanism that we put on this height adjuster, we've got to put it on there. We've got to get everything adjusted, get it exactly where we want it, and then mark where we're going to drill a hole. Then pull it back apart, and then drill a hole through one of the pipes, and then put it all back together. So again, just a lot of back and forth on some of these things. Put it together, take it apart, put it together again. But it's all for a certain very specific reason that we do that. So Herschel's just double checking, making sure that those pipes are out from the wall about the same distance on both sides, keeping things looking symmetrical, looking good. We want to make sure that everything is, everything is plumb and level and symmetrical and centered and exactly how it's supposed to be. This unit should last for decades. About the only thing that you need to replace on this unit from time to time are the pads and the net. You may replace, if you're really slamming on that rim quite a bit, I guess over time, you may have to replace that rim or upgrade the rim. But other than that, everything on here should last, as long as you want it to last. I mean, I can't imagine anything, especially in an indoor air conditioning environment where there's, less humidity. We're not really too much worried about rust or anything. Everything's powder coated really well. So we shouldn't have any corrosion problems. There's not really any maintenance on this system other than lubricating the springs and the hinge and stuff on the rim itself. Maybe with like some white lithium grease or something like that, something that's a little bit cleaner. I wouldn't spray it with an oil or WD-40 or anything that's going to drip onto the gym floor. That's dangerous. Plus, WD-40 tends to grab just dust that's floating through the air, and then it sticks and accumulates, and you get a kind of a dirty grease buildup with an oil like WD-40. But just some sort of cleaner lubricant is great. So this rim is up. This backboard is up. It is ready for play. Of course, the gym floor is not in. The wall pads aren't up. The other goal is not up, and there's still a bunch of stuff in the gym. Can't really use it right now. So this little shepherd's hook grabs an eye bolt, and that's what locks this in place. I usually grab the backstop with the hook to fold it. It looks like I don't have the eye bolt unscrewed enough, so you got to unscrew it enough. You don't want to unscrew it enough that it falls out. You have to get a ladder to put it back together. So I just grab and slide this thing over. Now it's going to want to go back to center just because of the way the chains and the brackets are, but you can see it folds pretty close to the wall. I've got it actually locked in a position right now. I've got to unscrew it a little bit to unlock it and let it fold. As I straighten it out, you want to go real easy on it. If you open it up real fast and slam it into that muffler clamp is going to shift. So I try to go real easy on it, real gentle when I open it back up, and then tighten that bolt back down, that eye bolt, and that'll lock it in position. And then you just want to put the shepherd's hook away and keep it safe so that you're not losing that. We can get replacements, but just to keep that safe. So thanks for tuning in. See how we put these goals up. Again, this was a little bit more detailed video. It's not meant really to be instructional. It's just purely to show you how we do things just for entertainment purposes. If you'd like to learn more about these products, we've got some information on our website. You can also go to garrettsports.com and check their website. I'll put links in the description down below the video. If you like this video, please click the like. We're not trying to monetize these. We're not going to ever be a big YouTube channel. We're way too niche for that. But if you like it, perhaps someone else that's looking to see about how to put up basketball goals might show up when they do a search. So that's all we're asking, is just to help other people find the information they're looking for. If you like the video, that might help somebody else find that information. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the next video where we'll show you the next process in the installation of this home gym. God bless. To learn more about our products and services, please visit southtexassportcourt.com. Sport Court is a registered trademark. Various design characteristics of products manufactured by Sport Court are either patented or have patents pending. Though other products in the marketplace may look similar to Sport Court, these knockoff products do not provide the energy-absorbing safety benefits, longevity, quality, or value that is provided by Sport Court surfacing and related products.